Back overseas now, Donald Trump survived his second assassination attempt this week, as we all know now. We've heard from Secret Service agents about failures at the top, but what's it like to actually be one of the agents who have to protect Mr. Trump? Well, Paul Eckloff is one of those very agents, a former Secret Service agent of more than 20 years who's protected 3 US presidents, including Donald Trump. Paul joins us now. Paul, it's good to have you with us this morning, sir. So let's start off with that question. What is it like to be Mr. Trump's protector?
Well, it is a unique situation, but it doesn't stand out as anything particularly more difficult than I did in my 23-year career. And as you said, I was on the protective detail for President Bush, President Obama, and President Trump. Eventually, I was his assistant detail leader. I would say that we did travel quite a bit, and he had a very busy schedule. And being such a popular and even polarizing figure made some of the protective operations rather challenging at times.
Yeah, I was a US correspondent in that first run of Barack Obama as president, and I remember all the reports coming out at that time about all these perceived threats, him, of course, being the first black president in US history. So is there any difference or any more or less threats that are coming for Mr. Trump this time, or is it kind of more the same?
I would say it's more of the same from different directions. And I would say the world is a different place than it was under President Obama because of the ubiquity of social media and the normalization of political violence that we've seen in recent times. But I would say that when I was with President Bush and we traveled to Canberra in Australia for a wonderful visit, I provided protective operations at the lodge in Canberra. And there was a rather large demonstration activity right along Adelaide Avenue and bordering when we went to Government House in Yarralumla. But so really every president comes embedded with its own security concerns. Trump is just a product of modern sensibilities in the social media age where threats and vitriol seem to have been increased.
I remember reporting on that protest in Canberra at that time. You're taking me back now. So is it becoming a more dangerous job, bearing in mind that you've got social media now? Like you said, you've got all these other threats that are taking place out there?
It is certainly a more dangerous job in the fact that there are more threats and more avenues and vectors for those threats. Social media platforms elevates the smallest voice to a world stage and seems to make it equal. And when you have nation states like Iran, where there have been death threats and actual assassination attempts that have been thwarted, and certainly 2 in the last 3 months, while not unprecedented, because we saw it in 1975, it makes it challenging. Newer technologies are brought to bear.
And have you got a thought on how Secret Service leadership is going?
I believe in the current Secret Service leadership. Acting Director Rowe, in his press briefing in Florida, was strong. He was forthright, and he wasn't just speaking to the public. He wasn't speaking to Congress or the world. He was speaking to the men and women on post today, providing protection. And Florida is a counterpoint to what we saw in Butler. Butler was an unequivocal failure, though there were successes in the evacuation and the tactical response. Florida was the plan as it's meant to be done. I've provided protection on that very golf course many times. I'm aware of the situation. The distance that this attempted assassin got has been highlighted, but it's really not that unique if you consider the distance of protective facilities to the public.
Bearing in mind we've had now 2 plots in the last 9 weeks, are we getting into a phase of normalization now? Can we expect more?
I would say that we can expect more. What I fear, and you see this in acts of political violence or even social violence in school shootings, even sadly with suicides, that there are copycats that follow them. They show that it can be done or how far you can get, and people tend to test those limits. And I fear there might be retaliatory violence on individuals in the other political spectrum and additional attempts. People with mental and emotional instability can't parse political rhetoric. When they hear someone, they're told by positions of power that someone is a threat to democracy and world peace. They don't hear that as a political statement. They hear that as a call to action, and that's dangerous.
Yeah. Paul, your anxiety levels must be much lower now that you're former.
I would say that that's correct, though since July 13 and being thrust back in the press and feeling that getting a normalized narrative out there and providing facts to the public, which they deserve, is important. So some of that stress has returned, and Secret Service agents never fully drop that. We don't turn our back on doors, and we're always looking for threats. So I would say, though, it is quite a bit. My home life has gotten better, and I'm home more often.
All right. Paul Eckloff, a former Secret Service agent, former protector of Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and Bush as well. Thank you very much for your time this morning.